In this video, we're gonna be installing solid billet aluminum bushings into the rear cradle and the rear differential of this Dodge Challenger. It could be your Dodge Charger or any of the LX series vehicles. But here's our Hellcat car, and on the bench here, I've got these products from BMR. So this is their solid bushing kit for the differential. So this is our differential side of things and the instructions to go along with that. And then this is the rear cradle. So we've got 4 bushings to solidly mount our rear cradle. And this is going to be quite the task, but we've got our instructions here. Luckily, we have a lift at our disposal. So we're gonna get straight into it. This is definitely going to be quite a overhaul for you guys. So I don't know if you're gonna wanna do this, laying in your garage on your back or something like that, but at least you'll be able to see with this video how to get it done. Also, if you guys are interested in any of these products, I'll mention again at the end of the video, but if you guys use code BOOSTED7, you guys will receive a discount off on the store for your products. So go ahead over there, BOOSTED7, and you can get yourself a discount. So I'm gonna go ahead and start ripping the car apart. We're gonna put up on the lift. We gotta drop the whole rear cradle off of this thing and get underway, so let's get to it. All right, so first up, we got the vehicle up, wheels off. You have to pretty much take out this splash shield at least somewhat so you can access your fill tube. And what you have to do is take your gas cap off, and then this just slides through this rubber grommet. This is held on by a 10mm nut on this stud right here. Squeeze this clip, pop this out. This blue tab, just pop this out, and then you can slide this out. And then down here, just use a 7mm, take this off, and then there's actually a check valve in that little plastic piece on the tank, so you don't have to worry about it, pushing fuel back. Might be a little bit, but the check valve will stop. So now we got to go ahead and snake this out. I might disconnect this sensor from the other side just to give myself more room instead of having this big tail on it. So, but either way, we'll get this thing out of here. I'll move on to the next thing. So underneath the vehicle here, this part is not fun, but it has to happen. So this is the parking brake cable here. You'll see what I did here was just took a set of locking vice grips. However you want to try to do it, no matter what, it's not going to be fun. But I disengaged the parking brake off of there. It kind of took off on me, so right here. So this was originally over there, and you have to slide these clips out. So I have to do one more. So this one, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put my pliers here, hold it, and then I gotta slide it out of here. There is these little locking tabs. Somebody's had this off before, but see this little window right there? That normally has a little locking tab in it that you have to bend away, but somebody's already did away with those. So now it's just a matter of holding the cable, sliding it out, and then the part that stays attached to the car will stay attached to the car. And this right here, there was a 10mm bolt that held this in there to the subframe, so make sure you take that out as well. That way your parking brake cable doesn't come down with the cradle. Okay, so you'll notice I did take off the calipers as well. So those are 2 18mm bolts, and then I took off this arm here so that you can actually feed it through. So by taking this out, when this cradle is coming down, you can feed the caliper through here, kind of maneuver it through as you're lifting the body off or lowering the cradle off, however you want to say that. And then over here, you got your 3 electrical connections. Squeeze this one out, remove the red locking tab, the whole deal. You guys know that. Take that all off. Other calipers removed. So now we've got our 2 16mm head bolts that are holding the top of our shock on there. Okay, so we removed our 16mm bolts here off the top of the shocks on both sides. And if you guys haven't already noticed, we don't have the drive shaft in this, and we don't have the exhaust on it because we already had that stuff off from working on the vehicle. But you're gonna want to take both those things out. So what I did was I just set the cradle down on this cart here, and now I'm going to continue to loosen these 18mm bolts. So there's 4 of them, 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So they're on each 4 corners. So I'm gonna remove those, and then we should be able to leave the cradle on the cart and lift the vehicle up. Okay, so I managed to feed our calipers up through here with this removed. Kind of pushed the parking brake out of the way, fed it up through and around the sway bar, and rested them on top. So now we can lift the vehicle up. Okay, and just like that, we've got our calipers chilling there. Let's roll this thing out here and we can get to work on all the bushings. All right, so after struggling. This is a chore, you guys, but I ended up getting the first, I guess, 1 of 8 out. But this is not the easiest thing to do. So I do have a press over there, but finding the sleeves to fit this, they're quite large. So kind of just doing it the garage style method. What I will tell you though is I use a combination of the air chisel, Sawzall, and what I would recommend doing is taking out at least the bushing out of the center of it before you start messing with it, because if not, you'll end up doing something like this, where I was like running, I thought I was being smart by like running the edge of the bushing over, and then I was gonna maybe try to drive it down, but now I essentially just made a solid bushing with the metal up against here, and now I gotta figure out how to get that out. So this is probably the better method. Like I said, cut out the center of the bushing like this, and then once you get that out, then I started folding over the edges of it with my air chisel, and then once I kind of cut it leaned up, then I ended up cutting it ever so slightly with the Sawzall, and then once I did that, I was able to just run it into the middle with the air chisel, and now it'll pretty much come out here. Now this is just essentially sitting here, so you can see I'm pushing it out with my hand even. So let me go ahead. Sure, if I just give it one zap with this, it'll probably come right out. There she goes. So there you go. There's the sleeve out with the bushing, and we got a million more to go. So let me get those done. All right, well, this is the aftermath carnage from getting those bushings out. So the 4 on our cradle are removed. Yeah, it is. It's a good time, but it's gonna be worth it, boys. It's gonna be worth it. So those are out. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove my differential. So in the instructions, it says to take off all of your control arm stuff and kind of just remove the cradle off of your diff. But since I don't know if this is lucky or unlucky, but I still have this axle out because this axle had an issue. I'm going to remove the bolts, and then I'm gonna pop this axle out, and I'm gonna move this effectively over, and then I can ditch this diff, get it out of the way, that we can get these bushings out, because we got to replace these 4 bushings. 2 are housed in the actual cradle, and then 2 are on the differential itself. So let me get that separated, and then we can get to these 4 bushings, and then we'll wait till we get all the old bushings out before we start installing the new stuff. All right, so as you saw there, I just used a simple ball joint press to press out the bearings from the aluminum housing on the differential. And then I'm gonna use the same thing on this one, and then we can move on to the ones over there. All right, so these 2 bushings, managed to get them out clean and intact. These ones, unfortunately, the C-clamp is there's just too much ground to try to cover for the ball joint press. I'm just resorting back to the other method. I went ahead, drilled the bushing out, and then I used a Sawzall to kind of break the remaining pieces. As you can see there, now we've got the shell, so now I can get in here, make a little slit in it, and then I can fold it over with the air hammer and get the casing out. So same deal, this one, let's get it done. Okay, there you go, same deal again, you guys. So take out the center, cut a slit in it with your Sawzall, just don't get into your outer surface, and then I just use the air hammer to kind of peel it over like a can opener, and then ultimately drive it out no matter which way, but that's how you get her out. So one last one, and then we're on to the fun stuff. All right, so here we go. We're gonna start putting all of these bushings in. So you're gonna see here in the instructions, the driver's side is longer than the passenger side bushing. So we have this situated the same way as the car right now. So driver's side, this is the longer one. Passenger side, this is the shorter one. So we're gonna drive these in with a dead blow and get these in here. Okay, so we've got our 2 bushings in here, and you can see here that is why one of them is a little bit longer, is because these 2 channels are different depths. So they both fit out there perfectly. Still working on this one, but I am also doing the differential ones. So I just did these 2 here. So they consist of 2 halves that go in. And what I found easiest to do is to use the bolt, put it through, and just find yourself a nut, and then it will squeeze itself in rather than trying to fight with a hammer or dead blow to get these in. So that's the way I did this. Let me show you the other side. All right, so bushings are both in. Let's go ahead and move on to the rest. All right, so our bushings are fully in, and then there's also these aluminum rings. They go on the top here on the front. So this is the same way it is in the vehicle. They are situated towards the front. So there's that. Now let's go ahead and get our differential in here. So let me get that in there. I'm sure you guys can handle that much. I also got to put in my other axle, but I need to get all that in there, and then we can get to putting the whole cradle back in the car. All right, and both axles are in. So now it's just a matter of lining this up, getting our bolts in. There is a longer and shorter bolt, you guys. So remember how this bushing here on our driver's side is longer? There is a longer supplied bolt that goes into here as well. So let's get all that hardware in there. Okay, so that ended up working beautifully, you guys. So diff is in there, everything is tight, and I ended up getting both axles in there without having to do much work with the control arms. One thing I will point out to you guys, because we are gonna be upgrading these arms, is I did flip this bolt. Reason being is once you put it up in the chassis, you can't remove that bolt. You either have to cut it off or drop the chassis to change out this arm. So I did flip this bolt on both sides so that we can replace these, because we're going to be upgrading all of these arms here shortly, and I want to share that process with you guys. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you're subscribed. If you're wondering why there's so much rust on the rotor, we haven't even driven or ran this car. Again, this is our project car. We picked it up and it was on fire, and now it's not on fire. So let's go ahead. We're going to put this up same way as we took it down, you guys. So I don't want to spend too much time on the install, because I'm sure you guys can handle it from here, but I'm going to go ahead, drop it in, feed my calipers through here, and put this into place, and then we'll get our bolts situated and we can get this cradle rocking and back in the car. All right, so rear cradle is in. I don't want to go into depth too much on the rear cradle, because I'm sure if you guys are tackling a job like this, you probably are familiar with the rear cradle install, and really it's a matter of 4 bolts and making sure you retighten everything. One thing I'm going to show you guys though is the fuel fill tube. So that's all back in here before we put our fender liner back in here. Just double check all your clips. You replugged in the sensor, and then of course that you've tightened the band clamp on your fill hose, and then make sure, since you had the calipers off, the calipers are tight, your 4 bolts on the cradle are tight. Moving around to this side, you're going to want to make sure you reconnect your 3 connectors here so that that's all plugged back in. And then we're going to install the drive shaft and put our exhaust back on. But like I said, that stuff, I'm sure you guys can handle that. But this thing is officially in. I'm going to throw my wheels on and put this thing down. Okay, so car is back down on the ground. Everything is tight, everything is good, and we are one step closer to being able to take this thing to the drag strip. But we still have to get the engine sorted out, but this is going to help huge with our traction. Like I mentioned also, we are going to be upgrading all the arms as well. That's another key component to keeping all of our suspension in place. So if you guys are interested in this car, or you guys have one, any of these LX platform cars, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because we're going to be doing the arms as well, and a bunch of stuff to make sure that this thing can put all of its power to the ground. So thanks for watching, guys. I will also put a discount code down in the description where you guys can get a discount on these pieces and parts. So if you're in the market for some upgrades from BMR, go check out the link, and also subscribe if you guys want to see more upgrades and finally see this beast light up. And then we are going to be at the track with this thing. So thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up for your takeoff. We'll see you guys on the next video.